This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to this week's edition of the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Adam the Jock Straczynski. On today's show, sounds like this wrestler may be done in WWE. 3 stars depart AEW, but they add 4 more. An update on Jay White's return to AEW. And this wrestler will be sticking around with TNA, as well as a few others. Of course, we got to take a look at WWE, take a look at AEW, and we're going to mix in a little bit of TNA. They debuted their brand new show on AMC. Got to talk about what we've seen with their debut show. Help me break it all down, sort it all out. He's the one. He's the only. He is the Doc, John McIntyre. What's up, cuz?
Man, it was cool to take a week off for sure for the new year, but my goodness, we missed a ton, and I'm looking forward to breaking it all down. I was excited for the debut of TNA. I'm not excited anymore. I'm excited for SmackDown. I'm excited because it was horrible. It was unbelievably bad. It was legendarily bad. My wife sat next to me and said, "What is this?" She said, "This looks like the worst thing I've ever seen on television." I said, "I know, honey." I said, "They're trying." I just thought that they blew the chance that they had to make a first impression. Rough. But SmackDown has hit the year running, and I just don't understand why Raw decided to say, okay, we're going to take a back seat. I don't know what the hell's going on Raw, but SmackDown has said, here we are, and they're just putting on show after show, banger after banger, segment after segment, viral moment after viral moment. As excited as I am for SmackDown, Raw's been terrible, so I'm excited to break it all down with you.
Yeah, man, let's start there, because we're basically coming back after a week off where we were gaslit into thinking that Chris Jericho was going to be on Raw, and Cody ends up losing his belt on SmackDown. So, you've got really dynamic situations going on with both of these programs, and it is completely safe to say that SmackDown is currently the way better show. But it feels like Monday Night Raw did this thing where they kind of propped up Chris Jericho showing up. They don't deliver that, and it really is like a C-level show. Like, you could get a better show at a live event than what you got on the last 2 Monday Night Raws. And then you follow that up with what SmackDown gives you, and they give you a title change, and then they give you a really awesome show this week where you've got Cody coming out, he gets booed, then he gets into it with Jacob Fatu. You had a fantastic match with Carmelo Hayes and Leon Slater. They've got a tournament going on to figure out who the 4 contestants are going to be to vie for the number 1 contendership to face Drew McIntyre, who is now your Universal Champion. It's just a really weird dynamic because Raw just, it almost feels like it's not worth your time. And I think when you look at the way we have the show set up, it's a lot of stuff that's really good on SmackDown that we're talking about. And it's like one thing that happened on Monday Night Raw that we're going to discuss. And I think that kind of gives you a look into the world of what's going on with WWE right now. And look, behind the scenes creatively, they made a little bit of a switch. And Road Dogg no longer has the majority control on SmackDown. He's been relegated. He's been demoted a little bit. There's another guy who was running NXT back when it was the gold and black brand, who has now more control. And I think you're seeing that on screen. You're starting to see much better storytelling. You're starting to see guys get over. You're seeing them do different things. Like, I don't think any of us either would have thought that Cody Rhodes was going to lose his belt on a Friday night SmackDown. That's what happened. That's what took place. But let's jump into Monday Night Raw. And I think the big takeaway from Monday Night Raw was Braun Breaker gets suspended after putting his hands on Adam Pearce. Do you like this? Because I think this is a decent way to keep Braun Breaker out of the title picture, but still keep him relevant. I think this is a decent way to book him to where you're not going to waste him. Obviously, a ton of steam. The guy is hot. Seems like he's the leader of the Vision. He's a guy who obviously has all 5 tools and has a great look. And at this moment in time, he just came off a loss to CM Punk. You're not going to put him back in a match with CM Punk because CM Punk's now going to face off against Finn Balor for a little bit. I think this is a good way to remove him from that title picture, but not have him lose any steam. What are your thoughts on suspending? It sounds like it's an indefinite suspension, so they're not bringing him back anytime soon. What are your thoughts on them kayfabe suspending him and putting him on the shelf? Yeah. I think it's a attempt to try to keep him hot all at the same time. It's a really weird dynamic they're trying to balance here.
Yeah, also, too, man, first let's rewind for 1 second. That match that he had with CM Punk was good, but wrestling was a little bit sloppy. Listen, man, if you're going to do, you got to remember, too, your uncle had a serious neck injury with everything that went down. Your dad had a serious neck injury with a move that he did off the top rope. You got to be careful when you're on that top rope. You can't be dumping on your head. Like, let's be real. You gotta master it so that you flip. You're a megastar. And it just goes to what William Regal said in a long thread where he said, look, man, these guys are trying to get the high spots, but in the end, if you keep doing it, you're going to end up with pins in your neck and you're not going to be able to perform. And you got to think about that. And it was just weird because people were looking at CM Punk's leg position and going, how would CM Punk supposed to come off the rope if his leg is tucked in to the side like that? So please be careful because Braun Breaker's the man. He came off looking strong. CM Punk, I thought, was right to go over. It helps build the credibility like we've said before. So I like what Braun Breaker has been doing, and I love the manner in which he's done in regards to getting himself even more to the next level, working with CM Punk. So now moving forward, the question is, okay, how do you handle it? Absolutely. Getting Adam Pearce involved, getting an angle. Maybe he needs to rest a little bit just to clear maybe some things that he had because he fell on his head and it was crazy. So I look at it and I say, oh my goodness. But to me, I'm thrilled with how it's going with CM Punk and moving forward at the top of the card. With what's going to happen moving forward, I think it's going to be good. They're going to line up CM Punk with some good opponents, and for Braun Breaker, it's just lead the vision, stay healthy, and also remind yourself that he's got it's one of those deals where he's entering into that where we know he's a good wrestler, he's strong, but he's got such a big presence that he doesn't have to kind of overdo it in the ring. He's got to find that right balance to pick your spots, and he's got to be careful with that spot at the top rope.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things where sometimes less is a little bit more. Protect yourself. You don't always have to risk it for the biscuit, right? Like you said, Steven Regal had a great point that he made when he was talking specifically about AEW and some of the wrestling going on in AEW where guys are getting dumped on their head. So it's one of those things you have to protect yourself. And you're right. I didn't even think about this. As you were talking, you said this. This might be a way to put him on the shelf because maybe he didn't clear concussion protocol. Maybe there's something going on there that they didn't let us know about. So I think really good insight from you, really fantastic, because like you said, you alluded to it, and that made me think of that. So that might be the case. It might be a way to kind of, again, put him on the shelf, make sure he doesn't lose any steam, make sure he comes back and he's 100%, because maybe he's banged his head around a little bit, and maybe he didn't pass concussion protocol. So we'll see what happens. I want to get your thoughts real quick before we transition into SmackDown. Finn Balor, CM Punk. Ooh. Finn Balor, we haven't seen do really a whole lot of anything besides kind of lead the Judgment Day and kind of be the puppeteer for what's been going on in the Judgment Day. This will be his first, what feels like legit shot at a title of this caliber in a very long time. Remember, he was your very first Universal Champion. In that match, he ends up tearing his labrum, has to go on the shelf, and after that, Vince lost faith in him. It was one bad move, one weird thing that happened with Seth Rollins, ends up tearing his shoulder, and he never had the opportunity to come back to get to that spot. This feels like it's a bit of an olive branch. Obviously, neither one of us believe that he's beating CM Punk, but what are your thoughts about seeing Finn Balor in the main event picture now?
Yeah, well, what we've been clamoring for. He's a guy that I think if they did a meeting and said, okay, who has been underutilized, that's the guy where you're like, oh man, on Raw, that was a great segment. That was the segment that I enjoyed the most on Raw. I was like, yes, get after it. And I look forward to it. He just, Now at this age where he's at, it looks believable, it's believable, and people want to see it. Finn Balor, CM Punk will be great, hopefully on Raw, if there's no commercial that really interrupts it, because that has been the biggest problem with wrestling really to start the year. Is the commercialization of wrestling has been crazy, where it's like, yes, promo segment, great fire commercial. Come back to, here's another vignette commercial. It's like, come on, dude. They really, and I think Raw said, if I read it correctly on one of these sites, that they're going to try to adapt it. More picture-in-picture, or just, listen, I'm all for it. Listen, we are a blog society. We all got ADHD. I'm all for 8-minute matches. 8 to 12 minutes, get your shit in and get out. Match, commercial, vignette, commercial. It's fine. But you got to have matches. That's the thing that's been pissing everybody off. That's why everybody loves the commercial-free hours. Let us have a wrestling match start to finish. Call it, then go to commercial, and then give an extra minute commercial if you need it. That's fine. It's just like the UFC. You don't go to commercial during the UFC. Start a match, finish a match, and then go do 4 or 5 minute commercials. We're all fine. We can get our shit done.
Yeah, and look, speaking of matches with commercials, I thought we had a fantastic one on SmackDown. Carmelo Hayes, Leon Slater.
Wow.
It was absolutely awesome. Too bad 35% of it was in a commercial break. Like, right when that match was kicking up, they go to a commercial, and it felt like it wasn't like it was like a 2-minute commercial. It felt like it was a 4.5-minute long commercial break. And yeah, some of it was the picture-in-picture, but look, maybe it's because of the way AEW's conditioned me. Maybe it's just because I don't like the picture-in-picture. Maybe it's because I don't have the announcers. I don't know. When the picture-in-picture goes on, I almost turn off my brain. Like, I just almost tune out.
Right.
So you giving me the picture-in-picture with the awesome wrestling going on, it's not really working. Also, I've got a 75-inch television in my living room. I'm not trying to watch a split screen, so half of that with whatever wrestling's going on. I want the full thing. I want the full Monty. I don't want a large part of a fantastic wrestling match to be interrupted by commercial breaks or to have an advert running alongside of it. I don't want that. Give me this fantastic. This was arguably the best match of the week. It was incredible what these two guys did. Carmelo Hayes looked outstanding. If you had no idea who Leon Slater was, you absolutely know who he is now. And these guys tore the freaking house down. Yet it was interrupted by a commercial break. And it was like a long stretch of a commercial break. It wasn't like, hey, we're going to pop out, pop back in. No. As this match was ramping up, it was shifting from second gear to third gear, and we were hitting the gas and we're ready to go full go. And you're in a commercial break. You don't need that. There's no need for it. Otherwise, this was absolutely impeccable. This match was stupendous. Both these guys come out looking incredible, but I feel like WWE screwed it up because they slapped the commercial breaks there. What were your thoughts on the match itself, and what are your thoughts on the commercial breaks interrupting what was arguably the best match of the week?
Yeah, everyone was like online, oh yeah, Leon Slater had quote unquote visa problems, and they were like, what the hell? What a great competitor, and everybody loved everything that they saw from Leon Slater, and they're like, wow, the chemistry's there with Carmelo Hayes. It's amazing. It's something that people resonated with, and everyone's talking about it. And this is good for Carmelo Hayes because you're starting to see somebody that had potential, that maybe had what would you call it, maybe a transition year in 2025. And some people were starting. I would say that. Yeah, transition year. And I hate to say it, but you were starting to maybe think, is this guy going to go the way of like Apollo Crews, or is he going to be a star? And unfortunately, we have to use Apollo Crews' name, but that's the kind of the hallmark of a great NXT star. But when he got his push, never really got anything. But now Carmelo Hayes has been featured correctly. And how do you do that? You feature him with guys that are just as athletic. And guess what? Bada boom, bada bing. Everybody's loving what's in the ring.
Speaking of athletic guys, Jacob Fatu and Cody Rhodes had a little bit of a dust up. So obviously, this is building off of what took place the week prior, where Jacob Fatu interfered in the final stage of the 3 stages of hell between Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre. Fatu comes out and basically wrecks shop on Drew McIntyre and ends up beating up Cody Rhodes in the process as well. I thought the thing that was most interesting, Cody comes out before they get into this dust up, right? This dust up kind of happens later on in the program. Cuts a promo, and through half of the promo, he's booed. And he acknowledges the boos. And he kind of, I don't want to say he struggled with this promo, right? I just feel like after watching a guy like John Cena kind of embrace that and kind of roll with it and then alter on the fly what he was going to say, I expected a little bit more from Cody. I thought he did a good enough job getting through it. He basically stuck to the points that he needed to stick to. But if I'm being honest with you, a little underwhelmed with how he handled it. And I think maybe it surprised him. I was surprised that he got booed. Were you surprised that he was booed? Like, this is a guy who obviously refers to himself as QB1. This is a guy who has been the face of the company since he's come back to WWE. He's been the guy who's been the champion for a long time. And look, I think taking the belt off of him when they did, absolutely fantastic. And judging by the crowd booing him, I think it tells you it was the perfect time to take it off of him because the crowd was getting tired of him, getting tired of his act. It's now time for him to kind of reinvent himself a little bit. And rumors, speculation are that he's not going to go heel. He's going to be a little bit more of a gray character. Not a full bad guy, but not a true white meat baby face. So we'll see how that kind of works. I always feel like sometimes that's a little bit, those can sometimes be a bit of a miss. You got 1 foot in the pool, 1 foot out of the pool, and you're not really sure what you want to be or what you want to do. But I found it interesting that the crowd reacted the way the crowd reacted. And look, that crowd was absolutely hot in London. They were fanatical. It was great. But they booed him, and that surprised me. Did it surprise you? And was that telling? Was that the best time to get the belt off of him and give it to Drew McIntyre?
Yeah, it's the right time. Look, in the end, it's time for a real look at the character. I mean, look, in the end, he is somebody that can be a natural hero, a natural heel. He's somebody that people can dislike. And what you're saying is based on his own criteria. Like, the man's obviously one of the top 3 wrestlers in the whole wide world. And it is jarring a little bit because you've been presenting yourself as a certain way, and you also want to deliver the message the way the writers want it. You know what I mean? You want to be like, okay, I got to try to find a way on the fly to turn it around. And when you don't have it, especially, look, these guys are traveling. Listen, we all are tired. We all got things going on, and it just doesn't hit, especially creatively. It's literally 2 seconds to think, oh, what should I say to get this turned back on track? But they should lean into it. Look, it's just what it is. It's the nature of the business. This is really interesting, the psychology of wrestling, where they love you, but they can't love you a long time. They can't love you 4, 5, 6 years in a row. I mean, it's just natural that the crowd is kind of also saying, and also too, I think in some weird way, if we literally look deep psychologically, it's almost like projecting, like, what did the fans really want in 2025? They wanted a heel John Cena run, a real one. Like, what did people like in our day, in our youthful age? They loved the NWO because it was bad, it was different. And so the white meat babyface is fine, but in the end, it's like it's a tale that can get boring. It's like, I'm the victim, I got beat up, I got to rise up again. And the next guy, I'm the guy, you're trying to take something from me, and I got to rise up. And eventually, when you go through 15 feuds as a babyface, it's like, yay, I cheer for you, but now I want to see you kick someone's ass. Like, there is some level of manliness, toughness that people want to see. And gray area, I get it. He'll be cheered in some markets, but I think it's time. This is really kind of simple. Him, Cardona, and add The Miz. Let The Miz grab onto something cool.
If they could form a faction, that'd be great.
Yes, him, Cardona, and The Miz, and let them run through some things, figure out a name, and turn heel. And that'd be something cool to just run roughshod. Say, okay, you guys are going to boo me. I'm taking over this business, and I'm going to do it with my friends. I mean, look, it's not that difficult, right? They smoke cigars, they hang out, and they take advantage of people and do it in a way where, here's the thing. It might be sped up, but maybe 8 months from now, if Trick Williams is still the star, Trick Williams is about to win at SummerSlam, and boom, Cody Rhodes turns heel. And you set the tease with Matt Cardona. Matt Cardona comes out first, then Cody Rhodes comes out and costs Trick Williams, and now you have a feud for a year with Trick and all the cool guys. So SmackDown has a chance.
Trick? Can we talk about Trick real quick?
He's a badass dude.
Dude, Trick has the look Like
He's got it. He's a
body
star.
of an Adonis,
Yeah.
and he's got a mouth that won't stop.
Right.
Like
Perfect.
there's another 5-tool player, man. Like SmackDown,
It's him.
Look, it feels like, sounds like
It's him.
Femi is also coming to SmackDown. Like SmackDown's roster is freaking loaded, bro.
For sure.
Like it is sick. And then you mix in a guy like Kit Wilson, who seemed like he was completely over, like out of nowhere.
Right.
Like Kit Wilson is, look, interesting. What him and his tag team, right? Like it was good and it did its thing. Him by himself, he does have star power. I feel like.
Yeah.
I feel like he's got a good look. He's got a decent gimmick right now. To me, when I was watching him in the ring, it feels like it's
chic. It's chic.
It's a little bit more Metro Rick Rude.
Yeah.
Is what it feels like.
Yeah.
A little bit more metrosexual Rick Rude is what it
Yes.
feels like.
Yes.
So not as womanizing and not as much of a degenerate as Rick Rude was, because Rick Rude would get kind of saucy on the mic.
Like Fandango. It's like Fandango. Kit Wilson. Like Fandango. That's exactly how I thought about it.
Yes. No, absolutely. But completely over in London.
Yeah.
My concern is he's over there because he's from there, right? Does that translate when he comes back to the States? And that'll be interesting. If he can carry that momentum that he had the other night on Friday Night SmackDown with him when he comes back to the States, I think that will be telling. If he can show up on next week's Friday Night SmackDown, where they're going to be at, they're going to be where's Saturday? I want to say it's going to be in Chicago. I could be wrong, but wherever they're going to be next week for Friday Night SmackDown, if he can show up and he can get a pop out of the crowd like he got when he was in London, that tells you everything you need to know. That tells you that the gimmick's going to work, he's going to work, and they've got to start to boost him up and get him over more, because what you've seen on Friday night was absolutely amazing. I was blown away. But no, you're right. I think very much like the Fandango. To me, it feels like it's a mix of Fandango and Rick Rude. And look, I'm here for it. He's interesting. I think it could work.
It could work because they're in Canada, Montreal. They're making a
That's
tour.
what it was. Montreal. I'm sorry.
It's all good.
I wasn't even in the right country.
but I think what could benefit him is some backstage vignettes where he creates a moment. That's where you get like in the ring where Jericho had the list and Owens had like maybe just once in a while the Kit Wilson experience. You just have him come out there, do a little talk, and you can build him like a little bit. I think it's time because we haven't had that in a while. I think he might be the best version to go, maybe even just backstage where he's like, it's Kit Wilson here, and I'm checking in, like a TMZ type stuff, or he can get himself over by maybe exposing some things privately that he's not supposed to. Miz, I see you were with your wife last night. And he's like, everyone's like, huh? And something that make him over and be funny. So whatever it is, you got something there, and it's really cool. And sometimes, like Joe Hendry, the song gets you hooked in a little bit, and now this is it. You go, okay, now I got something. Now you got to jump off with some good shit. Tell creative, look, get me some work, get me some stuff. And if he can take advantage of it, he's got himself a nice year or two run where you can just go tour the world on people excited to see his musical entrance. Yeah,
I agree with 100%, man. There's a lot there that they can do with him. The hope is that they do it and they don't screw it up. You ready to transition into some AEW?
Absolutely. AEW was real interesting. People are still harping on a lot of the stories that aren't being really told, but in the end, they had a decent start to the year in regards to, at least in my opinion, MJF and Bandito have done some good work in regards to telling a story. So AEW is doing their thing. And listen, if they were threatened at all by what they thought was going to be competition from TNA, I'm sorry. AEW by default is the number 2 country, and they were like, oh my God, we had when these wrestling shows do all the talk, it's going to be crapping on TNA, and they're going to be like, yes, all the focus now is off of us. We can just go about our business, but unfortunately, they're getting rated, and it's real sad because it's starting to show that AEW now is just basically, it's truly the middle of the road WCW just before the NWO. It's there, it's doing okay, but it's not threatening WWE anymore. And that shouldn't be the goal, but AEW's been okay, but at least at the top, it's been entertaining.
Yeah, you want to see a little bit more from AEW, right? You want to see them take that next step. look, I thought Dynamite was a good show. Collision looks like it's going to be a good show. The big news, though, is Powerhouse Hobbs is reported to be headed to WWE. So you're losing a guy who you want to talk about a guy who's got a look, a guy who can move in the ring, a guy who can cut an okay promo, a guy who can do things and is in one of the bigger storylines on your programming, and all of a sudden he's leaving. He's leaving your show. So look, after Dynamite, they taped Collision. The World Trios Championships were on the line. Samoa Joe, Shibata, and Hobbs. They ended up losing those belts to Hangman Page, Kevin Knight, and Mike Bailey. That signals that he's left the company and his contract has ended. His contract was basically up on the 14th at the stroke of midnight. There's been a lot of different guys talking about a lot of different things with this. On Wrestling Observer Radio, Meltzer said that Hobbs for quite a while had his foot out the door. Him and AEW went back and forth trying to negotiate a contract, but it sounds like he had his mind made up that he was going to WWE. It also sounds like he's going to start on the main roster in WWE, which to me is a little bit surprising. I thought for sure he would go to NXT. I thought a good way to introduce him would be in NXT, and you have him be kind of that Diesel like character, that Kevin Nash character for Shawn Michaels back in the day, where he's the heavy. He's the guy who comes in and he basically protects Ricky Saints, and he ends up developing his own little niche, and then from there he can kind of branch out on his own. It'd be a good way to introduce him. It doesn't sound like that's going to be the case. It sounds like they're putting him right to the main roster. I'm assuming he'll probably go on Monday Night Raw as SmackDown is completely loaded. What are your thoughts on AEW losing a guy like Powerhouse Hobbs and him going straight to the WWE main roster, which to me is a bit of a surprise?
Yeah, congratulations. Obafemi found his first guy he's going to squash. Listen, I understand Cardona, but he takes the loss to Trick Williams, and you're like, man, like, I get it. But again, number one thing, if I'm Cardona, I'm like, I want wins. I want to win 80% of my matches. I don't want to be fed to Trick Williams. It's like, come on, dude. But in the end, if you're making millions, staring at the lights does not sound like all that bad of a job, but it just feels like not everybody has to come in and earn their way back. It's Matt Cardona. He did the 5 years of all the grind. Let him win some. But listen, if Hobbs is like, listen, I know, and it's just one of those deals where everybody knows that, and in New York, everybody knows that does a podcast or that does sports talk, that in here in Detroit, you want to be on the ticket or you want to be on WFAN. Right now, with how everything is, and listen, it's all perception too, because it's not all great. Like when the creative gets real bad, you're just left on the shelf and getting paid. But in the end, WWE is going to raid AEW's best talent to stock up on guys that have been developed but underutilized. And that's the perception, and sometimes perception is reality. But if you're Powerhouse Hobbs, you know, damn, I'm going to a company that's been featured on, that has all the tools to make me a star. And I think AEW can make you a good wrestler. But that's fine. That gets you a component of life. But WWE has the chance, and all these guys have that little inner ego that says, I can be the guy, The Rock, Stone Cold, Undertaker. And those guys are in WWE. And so for Powerhouse Hobbs, it's a good opportunity to see. It's basically like getting called up really to the big leagues. Can you handle it at the biggest level in the world, where people say if you make it, you're a legend, and you have to always try and see if you can do it. And it's always cool to see people try to get their opportunity. But in the end, what sucks is that I just think that Obafemi's going to crush him. It's like basically you're getting Oba light. You know what I mean? But Oba's got to crush some people. So maybe Oba and he can be like, listen, Triple H, I got a great idea. I should lead Obafemi in a group. And he's going to be like, wait, what? He's like, I want to be the leader. And he's like, let's rethink that. And he'll come back and be like, I got a good idea. Yeah, you're going to be in the group, but you're you're going to be the guy next to Braun Breaker. You're not going to be the guy. He's like, oh, I tried. He's going to try, but I hope he gets shine, because the guy is a monster. He's not like, He's not small, but WWE
No.
certainly can make you small. Powerhouse Hobbs. Oh, he loses to Obafemi one week, and then the next week, oh, he's gonna lose to who's the guy in the Vision next to Braun Breaker? It slips my mind.
Bronson Reed.
Bronson Reed picked him up and threw him to a table. Oh, Bronson Reed no sells all his moves. Oh my God, look at this monster beast, Hobbs. Power bombs Braun Breaker. He gets right back up. You're like, I hope because when guys do make the decision, you just hope that they get some Cody Rhodes love, but not everybody does. Like he might end up being Lexi King. You just got to see, and that's the fun of wrestling.
I see. Look, I think it would have been a better idea for him to go to NXT than go straight to the main roster.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you could have done a better job of establishing him. Getting look,
but he's big, dude.
He's good in the ring.
Yeah,
and I think he cuts an okay promo. But I feel like there are things that can be cleaned up. You know,
seasoning, and also too, I think with the relationship, put him in TNA. Fuck it, let him run through TNA and go boom. Crush a Santana. Let Santana get a third title reign off of him. Let him go back and forth a little bit and utilize some of the talent. But listen, Hobbs is a big man and he can establish himself, especially if that's the selling point. Like, listen, I'll come, but I want to be on the main roster. And he's like, okay, let's see what you got.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they end up doing with him and how they end up utilizing him. I feel like he has a ton of potential.
Yes.
But you're going to have to book him correctly.
Yeah.
Creative's going to have to take a heavy hand with him to present him the way that he needs to be presented. So if they can do it, fantastic. If they can't, well, we'll see what happens. It's just another missed opportunity, I guess. You brought up TNA, and you brought up Hobbs running through TNA. The way TNA presented themselves on AMC on their debut episode, oh boy, I feel like me and you could run through TNA.
Yeah.
Let's start here. Let's start with the good. I thought the presentation was good. I thought the camera work was fine. Showing the empty crowd, maybe not necessary. I thought it had this bit of an upgraded and updated TNA vision, right? Like TNA has its own, and it's probably just because of where they would film and where they would book and where they would do things. But TNA has its own look. This to me felt like it had an upgraded, maybe on steroids presentation, and I liked it. I thought it was good. But what we got in the ring, what we got for the show, I myself felt like you missed a huge opportunity. This was a show that is supposed to be a wrestling show that was incredibly light on wrestling. There was a lot of talking. There was a lot of debuts. But overall, if you were supposed to get me to come back and watch this show the next week, I'm probably not doing it. Now, that being said, I have it saved to my library to record on my DVR. So I will, obviously be tuning in and checking stuff out. But it's one of those programs where what they gave me with their debut episode did not sell me. What were your thoughts on their debut show, on arguably their largest television deal that they've had almost ever? Maybe the Spike deal was probably bigger, but this was supposed to be a big deal. This is supposed to get them into more television sets. This is supposed to bring their program to more people, and I felt like they fumbled.
Oh, it was more than a fumble. It was a disaster. Listen, you have your core audience, and the idea was you should plan something. Like, in the end, what pissed people off? Listen, we understand it's TNA. Why would you choose to go to the side of the arena where there's no fans? It makes you look small. Well, all you have to do is you have all these celebrities, have them have some fun backstage. You don't need to have them all in the front row there. And you had a nice sized crowd, but it was just dispersed in a way that made it look like in one spot it was empty. So that's a really dumb decision. That's something that's amateur. Like, you should know that. Your job was, and what was crazy is that, Bully Ray on his show, he hyped it up. He said, this is a big deal. It's serious. This is important. You got to make a first impression. You need to hook people. You only get one chance, one show. And okay, you have visa issues. Okay, some of the matches change, but not every match needed to have a story. You just needed to have some matches. The matches were botch filled. Some people, I guess, felt like, or it didn't happen on my TV, but some people on the app, I guess, in the women's title picture, the title change, I guess, in a commercial for some people, it was just organized really, really bad. You just needed to have 4 matches, 5 even, and you can't go vignette, intro AJ Styles, then another vignette. You brought everybody down. It was produced poorly. It was, in my opinion, not put together right on the sheet. And you can't have 3 matches, and you can't have, I mean, you literally copied WWE, where everybody in the show is like, this is all commercials. What the hell is this? And then, unfortunately, listen, I don't care. When someone drew that shitty gimmick of Mr. Elegance on that paper, if there's not a soul that said, this fucking sucks.
That was horrible.
It was utterly horrible. It's the worst gimmick in the history of wrestling. Listen, it's up there. It's up there. I don't need a guy shaking in the ring next to Perez Hilton. It's a clown show. It's embarrassing. I don't care. I don't need Mr. Elegance in the ring. I don't need to see him ever again. And I was just shocked that they let that. And then people were taking a picture of him shaking all through the commercial. Like, dude, come on. That's not how you debut somebody. It ruined the debuts of all the others. I felt Cora Jade was cool. I thought Sonya Deville was cool. That was great. That was the highlight. And then the main event, in the end, I don't know if the guys blew up, but the ending was a little bit wonky. So in the end, all the parts, it just felt like you patched together a busted car, and everybody saw, oh, wait a minute, the first tire blew, the spark plug blew, and then when you went to turn on the air, a bunch of black smoke came out. I don't care, dude. You just needed to highlight TNA, total nonstop action. Unfortunately, for the listen, we're hardcore, we'll peek in, but the mainstream world, off of all the influencers, now they're going to call it total nonstop ass. And that sucks because that's what it was. It was 2 hours of ass. It was embarrassing. It was unbelievably for what for any preparation that they didn't. Their backup plan wasn't just to say, all right, let's just get AJ Francis against Nick Nemeth and guys tear the house down for 12 minutes and high spot, boom, 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 boom. Like, come on. Like, you have wrestlers, bring them in. And then the dumbest thing I think I've ever seen in the history of wrestling. You have the main event, and then you bring Nick Nemeth out for an untaped segment that you're going to share later? Like, what the hell? Air it on the show. Why am I seeing Nick Nemeth coming out there and causing a ruckus and declaring himself and all that nonsense? Oh, hell no. You air that. That's the best part of the show. What are you doing? Like, I don't.
He's a name. Like, he's a guy. Like, you go to TNA to see him specifically.
I don't need digital. You're on television. You don't need digital content. You can slice it up and put it later.
Yes.
Like, you don't need digital content. What are you talking about? Because for the 2 hours, all anybody was saying, I even tweeted, I said, Bully, you're involved in this? What the hell, man? You come out there and you're an announcer and this is what you do. And listen, I mean, if you can't even get AJ Styles, logo right, and it for some reason it just is there on the screen and nothing happens. I don't know if you just wanted to see a cheap pop with no music. It should have been music. His pyro back there. It was all weird.
The whole kit and caboodle.
It was all weird. It was just, I was so disappointed and let down. So I made a debut. The coach and he has a show from 2 to 4, so I called him up, and he's got a cool segment at the end of his show where you can just call up basically and just rant for a couple seconds. So I called in to the coach show. I made my Pro Wrestling Nation series debut, and I said, I had a chance to sit with my wife who's in a good mood for once, and she sat there and she said, this is terrible. And then I let off a rip at the end, and they were like, they were flabbergasted. I said at the end, and after that abomination of a show that should have moved the company forward, Carlos Silva should call Tommy Dreamer into his office and say, you're fired. And coach was like, I don't agree with that per se, but, and then the lady, the Hispanic lady that's on AEW, Thunder Rosa, was like, listen, don't crap on my boy. There's 3 other producers too. It was great. But in the end, It's just not good. There's a standard. Like, how do you fall so far below? Like, you can't present yourself. And then the funny part was everybody online was like, you guys were expecting more. This has been TNA forever. Like,
I was going to say, man, TNA just went TNA.
It's really bad, bro. It's really bad. That's your first impression. You got to pick it up with Genesis. But, man, it was just a letdown because I was into it. I was excited. I made time, 9 o'clock on a Thursday. AJ Styles is opening it up. And in the end, they fell flat on their face. They're not going to be number 2 anytime soon. You got to pick yourself back up.
Yeah, it was a show that was a complete letdown. And this was a huge opportunity.
Yeah,
right? You had a huge opportunity, one, to help reestablish yourself with your core audience, but two, help add to that core audience. And for a show that is and look, there is a balance, because we talk about this quite a bit, right? Like, we feel like sometimes AEW is just a little bit too much wrestling, and this show here was definitely not enough wrestling. You've got to strike that chord where you've got the good storytelling, you've got the good wrestling, you've got the good backstage vignettes and interviews that help push things along and kind of fill stuff. They screwed this all up. Like, all of it was bad. And then you introduced, like you said, Mr. Elegance. Mr. Elegance was probably the walking embodiment of what this show was.
Yeah.
It was not done well. It was a total miss. Look, I will check back in next week, but what they gave me this week was not good. And it was really, really a frustrating letdown. Look, I used to be a huge TNA guy. I loved TNA wrestling. I loved it when AJ Styles was there. I loved it when EC3 was there. I loved it when you had Matt Hardy doing the broken gimmick. I thought it was fantastic. I thought TNA had a chance to do a lot of really great things. And right now, what it feels like is it's the feeder system for WWE. It feels like it is NXT light. And it feels like it was basically an indie show that got a television deal, and the guys who were running the indie show had no idea how to run television. So really, really frustrating, a little bit of a letdown. I want to get into your show of the week. I think we're probably going to agree. I want to say SmackDown show of the week.
SmackDown show of the week, baby.
All right, cool. You ready for some news and notes?
Hit me with this week's professional wrestling news and notes. What made your list?
So we got a lot here. It sounds like this wrestler may be done in WWE. Bodyslam.net is reporting that Tommaso Ciampa is set to leave his WWE contract when it runs out. The report does not indicate what is next for Ciampa, stating that sources indicate to Bodyslam that Tommaso Ciampa's contract is coming up and he plans to finish his time with the company without a renewal. It's unclear if Ciampa will choose to sign a new deal and is planning on going elsewhere or wants to take time off without a deal. Ciampa was last seen on WWE programming during the December 19th episode of Friday Night SmackDown. On that night, he teamed with Gargano in a losing effort against the duo of Ilya Dragunov and Carmelo Hayes. Over the last 2 weeks, there has been a significant change in the presentation of Johnny Gargano. The Rebel Heart has been appearing on WWE television, accompanied by his wife, Candice LeRae, with his tag team partner notably absent. So we'll have to see where Ciampa ends up. With the start of the new year, 3 stars have departed AEW last 2 weeks ago. Those 3 names have officially departed the company are Alex Abraham, Mercedes Martinez, and Matt Taven. Sean Ross Sapp, Fightful Select confirms the 3 departures, and all 3 have subsequently, easy for me to say, removed from their AEW roster page. Chris Jericho's contract with AEW is also reportedly expired at the end of 2025, with him now reportedly a free agent. We thought he was going to be on WWE's Monday Night Raw 2 weeks ago. We did not get that. With the roster space clearing, AEW acted quickly, as it recently reported that the Rascals' contracts with TNA had expired, and all 4 members, Desmond Xavier, Xavier Wentz, Trey Miguel, and Myron Reed, are now free agents, and those guys have signed with AEW. They were backstage this week at AEW's Maximum Carnage episode of Dynamite, with them having reportedly signed with the company. We also have an update on Jay White's return to AEW. Now, this isn't very specific, but speaking on Wrestling Observer Live, Brian Alvarez stated that White will be out for a while, but was told that his return would come at some point in 2026. Alvarez said, "I've been told, and I don't know what it means, but he'll be back this year." The wrestler And this wrestler is sticking around in TNA, according to Fightful Select. You brought up Cedric Alexander a little bit earlier. Cedric Alexander has re-signed with TNA. Cedric joined TNA back in June of 2025, following his release from WWE in February of that year, with his contract initially reported to have been expired in October of last year, though he continued to wrestle for the company following the date. Cedric will challenge for the X Division Championship in a three-way at TNA Genesis, facing off with Moose and either Leon Slater or Myron Reed. According to PW Insider, the TNA International champion and former TNA World Champion Steve Macklin has also re-signed with TNA, along with TNA confirming that Hometown Man has re-signed. And it was announced that Nick Nemeth, formerly Dolph Ziggler in WWE, has also re-signed with TNA. So TNA re-signing a lot of their own and taking care of their own, as well as losing a couple. So it's just, to me, TNA kind of feels a little bit like New Japan. There comes this point every year where all the contracts expire right around the same time. Unlike New Japan usually falls asleep with that, and all those people end up leaving and going to WWE or AEW. In this case, TNA was able to resign a lot of their own. And that's going to do it for this week's wrestling news and notes, my brother.
Make sure you follow my guy, Adam, the Jock Strozinski, at Adam RSTROZ. Follow us at Detroit Podcast. We watch as each show takes place. It's going to be interesting time now. It's going to be interesting to monitor. I don't know if they're going to be able to, I don't know, just when you see pictures of stadiums being built for an event, I always get a little concerned. I hope the structure's good. I always get a little concerned when it's 2 weeks out and you're starting to see cranes and you're like, is this going to get done in time? Because you don't want nothing bad to happen at a marquee show. So I don't know, that stuff is crazy. That's the sign of things that alarm me, is like, man, I don't want stuff built for events at all. I want it to be structurally sound, everybody to be safe, let them cheer and have their pops. I'm excited to see how the Rumble plays out. I'm curious to see what now the build is going to be for WrestleMania. I'm getting excited for that. But yeah, absolutely, guys. If you're just watching one show, check out SmackDown. You can skip TNA, unfortunately. Check out the online reports. And if you want a good online feud, Moose took to social media to fight back against a YouTube content creator who's big in the space. And JD from New York was ripping TNA, and Moose was like, I just think people that are not in the business should not rip companies. And then he just got attacked by everybody, and he's like, oh man, I think I made a mistake replying on this one. And it's interesting to see because, you know, those that are working with the company still have to kind of put on a brave face, even though a show did not, it fell well short of the mark. As the world of wrestling kicks off in 2026, make sure you follow DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. We're into it. We love the business. We love watching and debating everything going on, and all we want is good, entertaining shows and some moments where we can pop. But we can guarantee that every single week you'll pop when you listen to the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast featured on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.